So now let's talk humerus. So the main bone that we could confuse the humerus with is the femur. But look at this is the femur and this is the humerus. So you only have two bones that have this little ball on the end. So if you see a bone with a ball, it's either the humerus or the femur, the two that have the M in it. But the smaller one, the humerus, is much smaller than the femur, okay? So the much longer one is the femur and the much shorter one is the humerus. Okay, now continuing with the humerus. So with the humerus, we have the head, which is where the ball is. So that part is the head of the humerus. Then we have two bumps called the greater and lesser tubercle. Once you see the head of the humerus, you're going to see like a little groove right here. That groove is where the tendon of your biceps brachii muscle goes through. And so the way you find the greater tubercle and lesser tubercle is the greater tubercle is going to be lateral to that bicipital groove here, and the lesser tubercle is going to be medial. So for me, the way I remember that is I want the lesser tubercle to be lateral because lesser and lateral both start with L, but unfortunately that's not how it worked out. So I remember, oh, I want lesser to be lateral, but that's not how it is. It's actually greater is lateral. So if I find that groove, the bump lateral to it is the greater tubercle, this one, and the bump to the medial side of it is the lesser tubercle, okay? Greater tubercle, lesser tubercle. Moving right along, we have the intertubercular groove or sulcus, also known as the bicipital groove, which is what I just said. So that's where that tendon of the biceps brachii muscle is going to come through. We're going to skip deltoid tuberosity. You can cross it off your list. Then we're going to come down to the distal end of the humerus, and there's some interesting things going on here. First, we know about our fossa, right? We have our coronoid fossa, which is the small one on the anterior side that only the pinky goes in. And then we have our olecranon fossa, our big O, which is our bigger fossa on the posterior side that our thumb goes in. Then let's go from medial to lateral. So again, this is the medial aspect, and you know it's the medial aspect because the head of the humerus is medial. So we come down, and this thing is the medial epicondyle. Again, there's part of the ulnar nerve runs through here, and so when you hit this, it's that funny bone sensation that you get. Okay. So the medial epicondyle, epi means above. Condyle is another word for bump. So we have two condyles here. We have one that looks like most of a ball. There's a little flattened part of it, but most of a ball here. And then we have one here that it's kind of hard to tell, but it looks like a spool of thread on its side, okay? So this one is called the capitulum, the round ball one. And this one that looks like the spool of thread on a side is called the trochlea, okay? So the trochlea is technically the medial condyle of the humerus, but it has a special name, trochlea, like I just said. And the capitulum is technically the lateral condyle of the humerus, but it has a special name, capitulum. So if we know that this is the capitulum, aka the lateral condyle, then this thing is the lateral epicondyle. It's just a roughened area that's above the lateral condyle, okay? And the trochlea, aka the medial condyle, has a medial epicondyle. It's a roughened area that's just above the medial condyle, okay? So down here at the distal end of the humerus, we have medial epicondyle, that's the funny bone area. We have the trochlea, we have the capitulum, the round one, and we have the lateral epicondyle, okay? So let's go through those again. So we have the head of the humerus here, where the ball is. We're going to have that intertubercular sulcus or groove or bicipital sulcus, whichever one you want. Then lateral, we're going to have the greater tubercle. Medial, we're going to have the lesser tubercle. Then coming down to the distal end, we're going to have the trochlea and the capitulum, the medial epicondyle, the lateral epicondyle, the coronoid fossa, and the olecranon fossa.